I'm Greg Adamore, your host for Experts of Southern Nevada. And today we have a special guest, Heidi Kasama from Prudential, who's also just been installed as the president of the Board of Realtors. And I'm so pleased that you could come down today and join our show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah, and why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started here with real estate in Las Vegas and your family a little bit?
Sure, be happy to. As you've noticed, I pronounce my name Heidi Kasama. It's spelled the same as Heidi, and that's because of my Norwegian background. My parents were immigrants to this country, so they came from Norway, and I always heard growing up that we'd be going back home soon, and meaning that we'd be heading back to Norway, but we stayed here and actually became part of the American dream. My parents did not have much money and struggled when they came to New York City, and eventually were able to buy their first home. They moved to the Seattle area. There's a lot of Norwegians over there. They moved there and had their first dream, their first home as homeowners, and not being accountable to a landlord anymore for their rent. So I saw how that transformed our home, my family, when they were able to do that. My husband is Peter Kasama. He is from Tokyo. He's a Japanese man. So he came here as an immigrant and came over here to college, and he got a chance to be part of the American dream as well, and became a citizen here, and worked hard in college, and eventually owned his own home. So I always like to share that story with people because it's what I do now, is real estate, which I love, and love helping people. I feel like owning a home and real estate is truly a path to stability and wealth for your own family, and you know, being in control of your destiny. So it's an area I really enjoy. Before I came to this, I was a CPA. So CPA for 20-some years, and that was a great career, and eventually sold the practice that my husband and I had, and moved down here to Las Vegas. When we sold it, my husband was like, I don't want to play golf in the rain anymore, because we were in Seattle and there's a lot of rain, and it's a little damp, and can't beat it in the summer, but the rest of the year it's a little damp and cold. And so we moved down here, and I had been involved in real estate myself, buying early my first home, my first investment property, and so had always been around the world of real estate, but not as an agent. And I always like to joke I'm blonde, but I'm not stupid. And so as a CPA, I would send business out to other realtors, and I thought, wow, look at that commission they just earned, and I have all the education, and I think they earned more on that deal than I just analyzed for somebody. I did their tax return for them, and you know, looked at what the tax consequence would be for selling, and some of those things. So got my real estate license. I started with getting referrals, and then moved into handling deals for ourselves and for our CPA clients. And then we sold the practice, and I jumped into real estate full time, and I was a fish in water and loved it, and thought I should have been doing this for all these years, and really thrived with it. And when I came down here to Las Vegas, I just pursued that immediately, just jumped into the real estate career, and haven't looked back since.
A lot of opportunities for people to get a piece of that American dream, and to get like a tax write-off and the equity development, and then of course just the joy of living in something that belongs to. And you hit on a good note with the stability. I know our, you know, home ownership really helps the community in so many ways. So I think that the market in general now, that we're seeing more people getting back into the home ownership.
Oh, absolutely. I love promoting it. I think, you know, there's many renters that are great assets to the communities, but you know, they're probably not going to spend the extra money fixing up a place because it's not their own. So with homeowners, you see them. They are out there redoing a landscaping job or remodeling their home, and they're vested in their communities. They want to know what zoning is going on. They're invested in the local schools, making sure their kids have great safe places to be. So it's such a good thing for communities to you know, rally together to help with home ownership. I just think it's a thing we all need to work on.
Yeah, and your office, Prudential, is headquartered in the Summerlin area?
Yes, well, Prudential Real Estate has 6 offices in the Valley, actually 7, And they have some smaller satellite offices as well. But I'm the managing broker for the Prudential Americana real estate office in the Summerlin area. And so I have about 150 agents that work for me, and they're all wonderful and great, and we're all working hard, and I'm also, as you mentioned, the president now for the Greater Las Vegas Association of Realtors, and very proud of that. It's about an 11,000 member organization. So it was, I felt very honored that the people voted me to be their president, and certainly want to promote and work with all the people there as well for being proud of what the realtors have done and supporting our community. We've gone through some tough times. The last few years, my heart goes out to so many of the real estate agents and the homeowners. And we've watched these poor homeowners suffer with foreclosures and short sales, and we've had agents, I'm sure as you know, we've had agents that have worked on them for 18 months, 23 months, and sometimes, that deal hasn't gone through, and we have a buyer and a seller that are very upset that it hasn't gone through, but we also have usually two realtors on both sides that it hasn't gone through for them either. So you've got typically four parties greatly impacted when some of these things don't go through, and for many of them, we've found that that's not only is the seller hoping to move on with their life, the buyer was hoping they would get a home that they found they liked, and you have real estate agents that are, they have to pay their bills and pay their rent or their mortgage payment, and so it impacts a lot of families and lives. So it's been a very tough several years that we've gone through. I have been so proud of the realtors that have continued, that have made it through, that are working hard for the homeowners out there. I think all the realtors should be very proud of what they've done to help the communities.
Yeah, I think, a lot of us have been in the business so long and invested in the communities, and you get such a deep satisfaction at that personal level. And I think that's one of the things that I found that's so motivational with other great realtors like yourself that really want to help people. And it's such a joy when you finally get people's that mortgage off their back, where they know within a year or more they can actually buy another home, lower their payments, and get back on their feet again. So there's a healing and sort of a happiness when you can help a family and help a community. So as realtors now, we actually deal with a lot of things that we typically didn't 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're almost doing paralegal. I know we don't practice legal, but
No.
you're doing debt reduction, and you deal with the painstaking process of these short sales and sometimes the REO inventories.
And it becomes a bewildering process for the sellers, and the buyers don't understand why it takes so long, so they get frustrated. But it's such a bewildering process for the sellers too, because essentially the paperwork you have to put together to present to the bank to attempt to do the short sale is almost like applying for a loan and then some. I mean, it's all the financial information, background stories of why the bank should work with you. So a lot of information. You're right, the realtors are doing so many things that they didn't do before, and have to be good at communicating what what is going on in the process and what some of those implications are.
Yeah. We've had Senator Justin Jones on and Marcus McConklin from the Lead Institute, and we were talking a little bit about how the market's changed the whole landscape with the banks, and there's been a lot of activism within the real estate community, lobbying up in Carson City to help resolve these issues that affect the banks and the homeowners and try to streamline the process. So I think now we're seeing changes that are hopefully streamlining and helping the homeowners, and they're getting counseling. We've had the Housing Counseling Center of Nevada here, and through Michelle Johnson and Attorney General. So each time somebody comes, I learn more. And it's such a blessing to have a guest like yourself here that's in a leadership role in a prominent company that's involved in serving. I know at different levels you're involved with. You've served on the committees for years and years. I guess they kept pushing you along.
Yeah, they did. They kind of moved me along. I started with, I've been on the Finance Committee, the Forms Committee, several other committees, that I've served on, and it's always a pleasure. And I think once you start being involved with, I don't know if you call it community service or volunteering your time, once you start, it's a slippery slope because people keep asking you to serve on other things and volunteer. And I say that jokingly because I wouldn't do it unless I had a satisfaction of you know, participating in all the different committees and the association. And I can honestly say, and I remind all my agents of this as well too, that you know, we're down there serving, but what I've received back has far outweighed what I've ever given. I've learned so much. I've made great connections with people. You know, the satisfaction of maybe being part of helping some of these laws and things change has been a great satisfaction. So I've received far more than I've given.
Yeah, and I think in giving you actually receive, and I found that's one of the motivational things I said in seeing a person, you're handing those keys, first-time homers, they have those dreams, they want to go back, and I know when I bought my first home too, the excitement, the nervousness, and you know, for us to help coach people who are buying their first home or maybe getting out of debt for where they're upside down in their home, it's a great feeling, and you know, it's good to get paid too, because we all want to feed our families and put food on the table.
Right.
But it goes way beyond that, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and you're right. You know, I think in the last few years, helping some of these people close a painful chapter on their life, where they couldn't keep up with the mortgage payments, or the house was just so upside down, and you can just see the relief on people, and so that has been a very rewarding thing. And then, you know, helping people, you know, there's been opportunities for people. The prices we certainly saw come down. They had reached such a height at one point that it was difficult for some people to buy a home. And so to help some of those people, first-time home buyers, like you said, and it's such a joy to see these people. And I was too. I remember the first time, my first home, it was just so, you were so nervous, you know, oh my goodness, how am I going to make the payment? And, you know, and you kind of forget, and you try to share with people, but you still have to make a rent payment. You know, it's a rent payment, or someplace you have to make a payment every month. So go to home ownership, because then you can control it more. Yeah.
In December, I think home prices increased slightly, and I know after statistics last year, we had like a 29% increase. Now, statistics might vary from, I think it was CoreLogic or through our association. What do you see happening here now that we're in 2014? Where do you see the market going this year, and maybe a few years down the road?
Well, it was interesting last year. We actually had some slight a slight dip. October we had pricing, our median was 185,000. In November we went to, I think it was 183,000, and then December we went up about a percentage again. So our median price ended up in December at 185,000, and year over year that was a 24% increase over the median price of last year. And it's ironic because at the end of 2012 that was also a 24% increase in the median price. So we had 2 years that ended with a 24% increase year over year. Now that sounds shocking and startling, because wow, that was quite a price increase. I like to remind people that the prices we're at now is what we had about 5 years ago. So it's taken us this long to come back up to that. And at the height of the market in June of 2006, our median price was $315,000. So when you look at our median price now of $185,000, and if you compare us to a lot of the other markets and metropolitan areas out there, we are still such a great value. So people shouldn't be worried when you hear price increases like that. They really shouldn't worry so much, because we're still such a good value. The other thing I like to point out to people is people don't understand that when they hear those prices, and a median, that's the price in the middle of everything that was sold. So much of our sales were at lower price points. We had investors coming into the market, buying many of the condos and the lower price product, and those prices have seen a doubling. And so not a 24% increase, but a doubling. But so many of those sales were the lower price points. So that factors into the median price and the average price, because certainly some of the other communities certainly had big hits as well, but they haven't seen that dramatic price increase, because you're factoring in all these things. So that's something good for people to consider. You know, I think looking into 2014, I think we're finally starting to see a little bit more of a stability, which I welcome. You know, when you have these, what I call almost a roller coaster, you know, the heights and the lows, it's tough on a community. People don't know when they should buy, when they should sell. And so it's coming into a more stable market. I think we'll see more traditional, just steady, small price increases like we used to have in what we used to call a normal market.
Yeah, more traditional sales, less short sales, and not so many repo sales as well. So I know for the agents that have been out driving around and burning up a set of tires trying to find a home before it was sold, now that the investors have kind of tailed off in Vegas, at least the hedge fund, I think you're referring to the hedge fund buyers, it's making it a little easier for buyers. So price ranges are more stable. It is a lot healthier market. You know.
It's much healthier for people, and you're absolutely right. With some of the price increases we've had, it has put some pressure on the rental rates. So from an investor standpoint, if the prices have gone up a little bit and the rental rates have gone down a little bit, it's not as an attractive return for them. So it's good that they've stepped back a little bit. They've certainly helped the market with buying. At one point we had excess inventory. Oh, yeah. It's interesting how the market goes. So the investors stepped in, and that was a good thing, and they've fixed up these homes and they're renting them out. But they're not as aggressive with buying now because of those differences. So now it's giving the opportunity, just like you said, in June, we had poor buyers and real estate agents, that were writing 14 offers, 12 offers, running from one property to another. And yet we knew there was inventory out in the market. Yeah. You could drive around and see a vacant home, and you could see a brown lawn. Oh, yeah. So, and we still have some of those. So people are like, how can we have a shortage when we still have those? Yeah. And so the banks, were taking time, or sellers, some of them unfortunately given up hope and didn't want to deal with trying to transition it to the bank or do a short sale. So we've gone through a lot of those. It's interesting because we ended the year in 2013 with just about 70% of the closings were traditional sales. And if you look at 2012, our closings then for traditional homes and products was about 37%. So that's been a huge change in the market. When a year ago, less than 40% were traditional and over 60% were distressed sales. And now we've almost done a reverse, where about 70% of our sales were traditional sales this year, which is great. It's a wonderful thing. We're getting closer to more of an even market where buyers and sellers are negotiating with each other.
And for a lot of home buyers, that's good news. You don't have to make 13 or 14 offers just to get one.
Yeah.
And getting into a bid war where sometimes you're buying $10,000, $15,000 above market, and a lot of listing agents are saying, well, we're not even going to include an appraisal contingency. So let's say the house you buy it for $180,
yes,
and they want $195, and it appraised at $180. They want the buyer to pony up that extra $15,000. That was what was happening months ago, but now that we're seeing a more balanced market, like you said, it makes it a lot easier for the buyers and a lot simpler. So, and it's also better for us, so we can service our clients better. So. What about the mortgage market? How's that going this year?
Well, we've had some, real important changes with the mortgage market, and so we've seen our FHA loan limits have been lowered. They were at 417, they're at 287, I think it is. And so that means for people looking at, FHA loans or that the price points, those home prices are no longer available to them. We've also seen now, we've gone from before buyers could have a debt-to-income ratio of just about 50%. Now it's been cut down to the low 40%. So again, we're having changes. Not only have we been dealing with changes in our real estate market, now we have the lending institutions and the credit markets are impacting us as well. So we have some buyers that, I just had one today, one of the agents in my office, where the person was approved for a loan last month, and these changes just backed, and now they're not approved. So when they started their process of looking for a home, they were an approved buyer, and now they're not because the debt-to-income ratio is a little bit off. So unfortunately, we might see some people that are in contract on homes not being able to close with these new rules. So that will be another, hit to our market, and we just like to see if we didn't keep getting these hits, and so we can keep moving along with stable markets. But it is what it is. It's some of the new regulations, federal regulations for banking. So we're dealing with that now, and hopefully people will find the means. Either we used to have 3% conventional down payments; those are gone. So you need 5% down at least now, and so the FICO scores from the FHA have increased. So we might have a few people that no longer can buy their home with some of these new lending requirements, and it's a sad thing to see, but it's a reality, and so people will have to be more creative, maybe have their families chip in with a little bit more money, or other things.
And I guess you also, like myself, you're a licensed property manager, but you have like 250 properties, so I guess you can put people in a rental until they're ready to buy, get them credit repair, get them qualified,
Yes.
and coach them through the financing so they know what to expect and they can plan ahead.
Yes, that's right. I have a property management division as well, and I've seen that. We've helped have about 250 properties that I manage, and yes, we have seen people that have gone through a short sale or a foreclosure, and they have to go to the market and rent until their credit is repaired. And so depending upon their circumstances and what type of loan they might look at, that could be 3 to 7 years that they have to kind of wait out in the market now before they can enter it again as a homeowner. And so we've helped people with that. We've put them into the rentals, and they're great tenants, and they're just waiting for the opportunity for them to be able to buy again.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Big question everybody wants to know is the status of the renewal of the Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Act. I don't know if the people on the Hill are meeting this week, next week, but I knew that there seemed to be a lot of support for it, but what do you hear about?
There is. The Mortgage Debt Relief Act expired at the end of this year, at December 31st, 2013. And that was an act that Congress had voted on, that because under the current regulations, the IRS regulations, if you had debt forgiven, so if you had a short sale and let's say you owed $200,000 and you sold it for $100,000 and it was 100% financed, you had a $100,000 debt that was released. Under the current tax code, you had to include that $100,000 as ordinary income in your tax return. So you didn't get a check, you didn't get money for $100,000, but you had to include it just like a paycheck. And so, of course, most people couldn't afford to pay the taxes on that. So Congress, when we went through this terrible crisis in our housing market, they came up with the Mortgage Debt Relief Act that said, for that circumstance, if your debt is released from the bank because of a short sale, you don't have to include it in your tax return. So that provision expired, and it has not been renewed. So we have a lot of people, agents, sellers, the buyers just have to wait to see what the sellers decide to do. But at this current time, if a seller sells his home with a short sale, he could have exposure for including that debt relief in his tax return. So it's a critical thing because we're just starting to repair our housing market. We're starting to move along. So the economy is moving forward. So we've been arguing very heavily that we want to see that renewed. So we have, I'm also a director for the National Association of Realtors, and I'm also a director for the Nevada Association of Realtors. So we have all teamed together with our local GLvar, the state, and the National Association of Realtors, and we've put a lot of pressure on all of the legislators. And I can tell you all the legislators for our state are all on board. We've had bipartisan support. All the legislators, we've got Dean Heller, we have Joe Heck, we have Senator Reed, we have all of them are working together to try and get this extension approved. And of course Congress has a lot on their plate with all the other issues that they have. So we're ringing the bell that don't forget this provision. It's very important to keep our economy moving along. And the home industry is a huge proponent of our economy. And so we remind them that this is not just a bill that the real estate community wants. This is a bill that is healthy for the entire nation because of how important the home building and the home selling and buying process is to the economy. So we're hopeful. We hear word that people are working on it, but like I said, with all the things that Congress is dealing with, we don't know when it will be approved. We are concerned, and we're working very hard to get that approved.
If people are watching, you might want to support this or contact your congressman or your senators and let them know that the Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Act does need to be extended because it will help homeowners and get some relief from the IRS sanctions as they're written today. And we're hoping, I have clients in escrow right now, they're engineers, they have security clearances, Department of Energy, we've got dentists. A lot of people don't realize it's not just people who have unemployed, but there are other strategic defaults for short sales. There's a lot of people involved.
Absolutely.
A lot of families involved. And if we're going to be taxed for $100,000, like this in a scenario, it is something to look out for. And I know you have a CPA background, and some of the one or two of the guests I've had on here had some experience in that. I think tax lawyers and stuff are also figuring out ways to insolvency tests and different things. So don't panic if you happen to be in a short sale and we don't get this. Talk to a certified public accountant or a tax professional or a tax attorney, because a lot of times there are exceptions and you may not be harshly affected.
Check with your CPA. You're absolutely right, because you have to remember that if you've had a house that you've had maybe $100,000 loss on, it is a loss. So you can't write those off for personal residences, but if you've had it as an investment property, then those are things. So check with your accountant, because some of those things, even if you had a gain from the mortgage debt relief, you could have enough losses offsetting it. So you're absolutely right. All hope is not lost. Check with your accountant. There's still a lot of things that can be done. But we knew that was an easy way for people to feel comfortable to go through with their short sale.
Yeah, and we'll just keep people monitored. In the last couple of minutes, I just wanted to, when you came into the real estate, a lot of people might be watching the show, and a lot of people have been considering changing careers. What do you think, personality-wise, or what type of skill sets, what do you see for people who may be considering, hey, maybe I ought to change careers and get out of that 9-to-5 and jump into real estate? It seems like there's quite a diverse background of us that are in the real estate profession. And
It is, and I actually counsel a lot of people on this. I've had people call me and come and visit with me about changing careers, because I made a large career change. It was a large difference going from a CPA to real estate agent. One thing I always tell them is keep in mind there is no silver bullet. I've been looking for it. I've never found it. I'm sure you've been looking for it too. We've all been looking for that silver bullet. It's not there. And so no matter what you do, it takes work. It takes a dedication. I think it takes a commitment to being a student of what career you're in, to being a professional. And but with that said, I think it's a great career. I have loved it. And I think that, we take all of our past experiences with us. It's like a plant in a pot, and sometimes it gets root bound. And, it's good. It's good in life, too, to take it out, repot yourself, shake it out a little bit, put some water and fertilizer in it, and you can bloom again. And you can do that with career changes. But be a student and be willing to work. And I always tell people in real estate, if you're willing to put in a solid, even 30 hours a week, you will succeed and you will do well. The problem with real estate I found is people, if they've been what I call a W-2 employee with the clock running, going into a 1099 employee, an independent agent, you are your own boss. So you have to make sure that you're scheduling your day to work and to show up on time and to do the work that's required. But it's a very rewarding career. I've loved it, and I encourage everybody to look at it.
Thank you, and it's been a privilege to have you here today. Heidi Kasama, the Board of Realtors President and broker at Prudential. I thank you for coming on the show today.
It's been my pleasure.
Your lovely family, and we'll see you folks next Tuesday at 5 p.m. and 9:30 a.m. right here on Keen TV.